Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's 8:30 p.m. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. A couple quick announcements. You know, we have a Facebook page, Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, keeping everybody connected. If you have any flyers or any events going on, please post them in there. There's a whole bunch of events going on in the next few weeks. The holiday was a Labor Day weekend, all weekend long. Different places are doing that, so if you want to be up on that, we post speakers in there, and we also have our YouTube channel. And on there, we post each speaker there, so if you miss it or you want to share it with somebody, it makes it easy access. We believe what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous saves and changes lives, and we make it as easily accessible to everybody. And that's the whole point of this group. Our sister group is a big book study. Meets every Thursday right over there at Salem UCC Church. 7:30 p.m. on Thursdays. It's called the Big Book Study Solution Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. We go line by line through that book. We try to inventory our program and align it with the program that's in print from our founders, making adjustments wherever we need it and where we see we're maybe not living up to what the program is, as opposed to meeting attendance alone. Anyway, enough of that. We have 1,000 CDs of speakers past. They're available free. They're on that back table back there. We have flyers that we put out, which we forgot to bring this week, but they'll be out every week. But if you have flyers at your group or any kind of events, please put them on our table, and we'll put them out each week to keep us connected. What else am I forgetting? Oh yeah, and like I think we've been announcing the last few months, this group has given away close to 140 big books to institutions for free, people inside treatment centers that don't have access or even the funds, or maybe not even being shown that this program is there. So we carry that message. It's all because of your contribution. So be mindful of that. You're helping a lot of people indirectly through your contributions. Anyway, we have a great chairperson tonight. Let's please welcome Nick. He's going to come here.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick, and I am an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, we simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes.
Hi, Margie, alcoholic.
Hey, Margie, welcome.
Jeff, alcoholic.
Hey, Jeff, welcome.
Tony, alcoholic.
Hey, Tony, welcome. All right, and welcome to everybody. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Excellent. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? I do have one announcement. September 5th, it's a Monday, it's a Labor Day picnic. The Feet First Speaker Group in Quakertown at 5 o'clock. It's a Mennonite church on Allentown Road. They're doing food and fellowship, barbecue, 5 o'clock. Speaker to follow at 8 o'clock. If you want information, come see me after the meeting. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. If you'd like a CD of any speaker past or present, please see me or any home group member before or after the meeting, and they are available free of charge. And now with that, I have Joe to come up and read the AA Preamble.
Joe, alcoholic. This is the AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I have Brian to come up and read the AA 12 steps.
My name is Brian. I'm an alcoholic. The AA 12 steps of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, saw through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Now, Nick's going to come up.
The seventh tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supported, including outside contributions. At this time, we'd like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses, and this group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And just one more quick announcement. On Friday, the 26th of August, Labor Day Speaker Bash, games, food, bonfire, 5 p.m. And this is, there's a really good speaker, Ashley, and a semi-okay speaker named Ron Kay. I don't know. And that's in Chester Springs Community Church in Chester Springs, PA. I have the flyer here, and both of the things announcements I made will be posted on our Facebook page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group on Facebook. Tons of stuff on there to stay connected. And which leads us to our speaker. A good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group comes to us from New Jersey, Neil S. from the Allendale Group.
Hey everybody, I'm Neil. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank the group for welcoming me, come and asking me to come speak. And this one thing I really like about this group is that it's just there's a lot of energy, right? We do the picture, the energy that when we walk up, everybody's super friendly, but also we have the levity, but there's also the seriousness of it, right? To get dressed up, to look appropriate, and to be so much of service, right? To giving away the big books and all the stuff they do, and all the 12-step work that they do. So I take my sobriety in AA to like the nth degree. I always have, ever since I had my spiritual awakening. And I'll talk a little bit about before my spiritual awakening and how it was definitely not taken to the nth degree, right? But ever since I've had it, I've done Alcoholics Anonymous alcoholically, and have taken it to that next level. And it's always nice to come and be invited to a place where they share that enthusiasm that I share, and it automatically makes me feel comfortable. It automatically makes me feel like I can come here and I can throw down in this meeting and we can rap about some sobriety and service and fellowship and really, delve into the problem and most importantly the solution, you know. And so for me, when I think about alcoholism and drinking and my life and my kind of foray into it, the best way I could explain it in a very simple way is that as long as alcohol did for me, I did not care that much what it did to me. And when I think about that, the best example that I can give you is that the first time I ever got drunk, you know, first time I ever really drank, I remember vividly. I was at a party. It was my cousin's house. He was a couple years older than me. I idolized him and his friends. I wanted to, you know, fit in with them desperately. Whatever they were going to do, I was going to do. And I remember sitting where I was sitting, exactly where I was sitting, you know, walking into that house and being extremely uncomfortable, very anxious, and full of fear. You know, and all those emotions kind of hitting me like a barrage of what can I say, or how can I say it, or how am I going to fit in with these people, or what am I going to talk about, or how can I, you know, all these different things. And they were drinking, and, you know, I was gonna, like I said, I was going to do anything they were doing. And when I took that drink, and it was a Budweiser can, and I kind of like held my stomach and choked it back as fast as I could because I didn't really like the taste. But after that first and probably that second drink, all of a sudden that uncomfortable feeling, that anxiousness that I was feeling, and that fear started to dissipate almost immediately. And what happened in that moment is that my brain, alcoholic as it was, although I didn't realize that at the time, logs this information as extremely important information. And it says, whenever you feel uncomfortable, fearful, or anxious in any way, shape, or form, if you drink this, it's going to make you feel a hell of a lot better. It's going to make you feel like you can talk to people. It can make you feel like you can be comfortable around people. Right? And so, if you ask a newcomer walk through the door, never been to AA or kind of have any information really about their disease or anything that's going on, and you ask them, like, what makes you an alcoholic? Stock answer, I drink too much alcohol. Right? The alcohol is what makes me the alcoholic. And that was my stock answer. But the truth really is, what makes me an alcoholic, the real alcoholic, as like the book talks about, is that I am uncomfortable, anxious, and fearful when I'm not drunk. That's like my normal nature out in the world. I remember there was a guy in the meeting that used to say, like, hi, my name's Rich, and sobriety is my problem. And I'd be like, what's this guy talking about? But he's absolutely right. That was my problem. I had no idea how to navigate the world sober. Because sober, I was uncomfortable, I was anxious, and I was fearful, or as the book talks about it, I was restless, irritable, and discontented, or uneasy, you know, any adjective here, and that's what I was. So once my alcoholic mind grasped onto this concept that if I drank alcohol when I felt like that, then I'll feel better. And since that was my nature most times, I started drinking a hell of a lot. And then what I said earlier about as long as alcohol did for me, so that's what it did for me, took away those things and made me feel better. Then I didn't really care that much what it did to me. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however perspective you want to take a look at it, right? I'm not an alcoholic that can drink alcohol and use drugs without consequences. That's just not my story. I'm not the guy who gets up at the podium and says, well, I drank for 40 years and never got a DUI and never lost my job and like helped my wife the whole time. That wasn't my story, right? First time I got drunk, 16. First time I was in a police station, 16, 18, 3 felonies, all different kinds of stuff, consequence after consequence, all due to like drinking and drugs and, trying to sell drugs and like, getting wrapped up in that way, because as long as it was going to do for me, I didn't care that much about what it did to me. It's very interesting to think about all these kind of things that we go through in active alcoholism. Like, I remember the first time I ever got arrested, I was like, this is like horrifying. Like bracelets on and like up against the car, and I was a kid and they were mean to me, and like all this stuff. And like, I remember by like, the 15th time I got arrested, I was like, I know the drill, psh, like, let's go. It's funny what we get used to. Jail, how horrible it is, after a while, we adapt. And as long as alcohol was going to take away that uncomfortable, fearful, and anxious feeling inside of me, I'll take jail. I'll do it. I'll do a stretch. Or you don't want to be my girlfriend anymore? Okay. Sorry. Because you don't take away the uncomfortable, fearful, anxious feeling I have inside of me. This does. I choose that. Family members, same thing. Right? And as long as it was going to do that, I could take everything else. I didn't like it, wasn't looking forward to it, but I could take it. But the problem is, eventually, alcohol stops doing for me, and it only started doing to me. It just stopped working. When it stops working is a horrifying time in any alcoholic's life. And it just doesn't work anymore. And not only does it not work, it actually does the opposite. It starts to exacerbate the things that I'm hoping that it works for. Instead of taking away the fear, it doesn't just take away my fear. Now it's supplying me with terror. Right? Like, it's not, forget about like taking away some of it. Like, now it's like making it 10 times worse. And now I'm in a real pickle because my alcoholic mind says, drink more, it'll work eventually. And it just doesn't work. And like that, that sums up my drinking kind of in a lot, right? Like, there was a ton of consequences. There was a ton of stuff, that trouble and all that stuff. And like, that never deterred me. Not drinking wasn't on the table. How can I circumnavigate these different situations while I continue to drink, and hopefully, it works. And then it just stops working. And then you're, as an alcoholic, it's a real pickle. It's a real problem. And so when I was 21, I got a call. My dad was down in Florida. We moved him down to Fort Lauderdale, and he was down there. He wasn't even down there like a year. And my sister was like footing the bill. And anyway, I got a phone call. He said, hop on a plane, get down here. He's not in good shape. You got to get down here. So I hop on an airplane, and I get down, and I walk into the Fort Lauderdale hospital, and I walk into their ICU unit. And I walk in, like my sister, I got 2 older sisters, and they're kind of, one's pacing back and forth, the other one is kind of like got her her head in her hands, and she's on the couch, and my mom is beside herself, and all these different things. And a doctor I never laid eyes on in my life walked up to me, and he was like, "You're Paul's son?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You need to go into that room and say goodbye, because like he's not going to live through the night." And so I walk into this ICU unit. And here's my dad, and he's in this hospital bed, and he's got like all these wires and leads, and everything's hooked up to him, and he's kind of 3 times the size, especially his belly is really distended. He's bright yellow, including like the whites of his eyes, bright like neon yellow, like somebody took like a neon marker and like covered in the whites. And he's got heart failure, liver failure, kidney failure. I mean, like everything's on the brink. And, he's dying of alcoholism right before my eyes. He drank a bottle of stock brandy a day for many, many years. And he's dying. And, he's like, laid back. He can barely talk, but he sees me, corner of his eye. He kind of like shifts his eye to me. And he like, with like, his finger, he like waves me in. So I walk in, 21. I'm a raging alcoholic on my own right at this time. And I walk in, and I lean in, and he whispers in my ear, "Don't turn out like this." And like he knew it. That was it. It was a wrap. He wasn't coming out of it. He actually survived, I think, like 13 more days, but it was over, and he knew it, and that was that. And it's so funny, right? Like, I love the Big Book with all my heart. I really do. Because that book just like nails you. sometimes. And so they talk about like the difference between the alcoholics, right? You got the moderate drinker, the hard drinker, and like the real alcoholic. And like, how do you kind of decipher? Because the moderate drinker is easy. Like, he's your regular person. He likes like red wine with steak because like the taste or something nonsense like that. And like, but then you got, the hard drinker and the alcoholic. This gets a little tricky. Hard drinker and real alcoholic are exactly alike. Drink the same way, get in trouble the same way, do drugs the same way, like fall down the stairs the same way. Like, the hard drinker and real alcoholic, very, very similar, except for one thing. Give the hard drinker a real reason, he can stop. So let's delve into what's a real reason, right? How about like watching your father die of a disease that you pretty much think that you have? Maybe that's a good enough reason to like say, you know what? I'm kind of headed down this path. I don't really like the scene I'm looking at. Maybe I should do something about it. Right? But I blow right past that. Actually, I don't even contemplate that. I use his death as a way to accelerate my drinking. I use it because I'm inherently selfish and I suffer from my all-time favorite character defect, self-pity. Right? Because I'll ride that wave all the way. I'll take that train as far as it'll take me. Right? And that's what I did, right? Like, you see what just happened? I don't want to talk about my drinking. My dad just died. Like that kind of stuff. Because like, I'll use anything to justify what I feel I need. Yeah, it's not something I like talking about, but let's be honest, that's the truth. That's the truth, And so, from 21 to 31, I suffered or became adaptable to most of the bells and whistles of active alcoholism that most of us go through. Failed relationships, little, nonsense jail spills, arrests, DUIs, all that stuff. Hiding from the law in Pennsylvania, I was living out in, Lewisburg for a while because I had a lot of legal problems in New Jersey, and I swindling my sisters for money, and just like all that stuff. And so I got back to, I was 30, I was 31. And it's funny, like when I talk about when I stopped working, it really didn't work for a while. But when I hit age 29, for some reason, my functioning alcoholic status just went totally by the wayside. And I just couldn't wake up. I'd get drunk and get up for work and drag my ass and I was horrible at what I was doing. But I got up and did it. And by the time I turned 29, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't even get up. I had my bosses banging on the door and all this stuff, and I just couldn't get out of bed. I didn't have the physical will or strength to get out of bed after I've been drinking for 7 days in a row. And I just couldn't function. And again, stopped working, and now, now I can't stop. It's like the merry-go-round from hell. And so I went, I was drinking at this bar I was drank at, and it was a Sunday morning, and I went outside to smoke a cigarette, and I started to shake uncontrollably, violently. And it wasn't because I was detoxing, because I was fully loaded at the time. I was drinking for well over a week. But I went outside to smoke that cigarette, and I just couldn't do it. And I couldn't light the cigarette. I literally lost motor function. I just I couldn't hold this pack of cigarettes, couldn't put it in my mouth. I was sobbing. And it was just completely out of the blue. And I just there was that moment where, this voice inside my head, said, ask for help. And so I called my mom, and she was that's the call she'd been praying for years. Not the one she usually got. Was I'm in trouble again, I need help, money, bail me out. It was I can't stop drinking. I can't stop. I need help. I think my words literally, I need to be shut up in an asylum. taking me out of society, right? Because I knew somehow, I mean, I know now how, right? That higher power. To know that, like, you're not strong enough to just, like, go to AA and stop drinking. You're just not. You know, I was like, I need to go somewhere. I don't care where it is, what it looks like. Just take me. And it's so funny, like, we talk about humility. Humility is like an amazing topic in AA. You know, 7-step meeting is basically a meeting on humility. And what's so great about it is that, like, everybody's kind of got their own opinion about what it is and what it means to them. There's no, like, direct, this is the definition, and it is what it is. It's kind of like fluid. It kind of, like, means something to, like, you, and it means something to you, and it means something to me. And, like, they're all right, every answer. And so for me, in my experience, and I think about that time and my time after that, when I think about humility, for me, it means asking for help and accepting help without attaching any of my conditions to that help. Right? And so, because, like, I would always be like, I'm too prideful. I don't need your help. Nonsense. I ask for help all the time, but I always wanted you to help me exactly how I wanted you to help me. Right? That was the difference. Right? I need help. You know, your drinking is crazy out of control. Maybe you should do something about it. No. I don't need that kind of help. I need money. Right? That's what kind of help, like, that's the help that I need, correct? Because I don't think I have an alcohol. I've suffered from a delusion, a lie that I believe. I don't think that I have an alcohol problem. I have a rent problem. I have this problem. This will solve that problem, not sobriety. What does that have to do with anything? How is sobriety and God going to solve my rent problem? How is sobriety and God going to solve my legal problems? I just go up to the judge and say, well, I'm sober and I got God. Judge is going to be like, you know, and, like, that's how I thought. But now, this situation, a lot different. You know, before it was like, all right, I'll go to rehab, but this is what it's going to look like. It's got to be in Colorado. It needs to be on a mountain. I want my own room, because I'm not sharing a room with anybody. There better be a flat screen on that wall, right? Like, I better be able to ski off the mountain. Like, attaching conditions to that help. Like, this is what all right, I'll go, but this is what it looks like. And honestly, I look back through all my history, all those 31 years, and every single time I attached conditions to anything that I thought was good for me or any kind of help that I wanted, that never worked out. Not once. 0% working. Never once. And this was the first time in my short life where I said, I don't care where it is, or what it looks like, or what I have to do. I need help. And the next day, that was a Sunday, and they couldn't get me in on a weekend, which is crazy, but that's how it is. And the next day was a Monday, and my mom drove me to this rehab in Paterson, New Jersey. I don't know if anybody knows anything about Paterson. It's not Colorado. You know? But I went. You know? That gift of desperation. How long does that gift last, though? It won't last forever. I wish it did. I had a lot more sponsees that I could take through the work. And so I went. And so what was a little interesting about this time was that there was no legal consequence keeping me there. Right? I could go if I wanted. No one could say, well, if you go, you're going to go to jail. Like, it was just like, you know, God bless my mom. My mom walked up in there and threw a credit card down. It was like, whatever it costs, get them better. You know, like, she's like, whatever it costs. I don't care. She's not wealthy, you know. She's like, just threw it down. And I went in there and they detoxed me off alcohol and cocaine. The end of my drinking, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment that didn't have electricity, and there were rodents and insects. And I'd wake up in the floor of that apartment, and I didn't know if it was 4 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. In and out of brownouts and blackouts. And I'd wake up sometimes driving a 15-ton truck down the New Jersey Turnpike doing lines of cocaine off my hand. 7 o'clock in the morning. Just like come out of a blackout, I'd be at work. or brownout or something. And, it's like, we talk, it's a horrible truth that sometimes alcoholics hurt people with their vehicle. It's a horrible truth. I know a lot of people that have done it, killed people. And I could have killed a school bus full of kids. That's how serious it was getting at the end. Forget about one person. I mean, with that truck, I could do serious damage. But the alcoholic life becomes a normal life. That behavior became normal to me. It's crazy. I look at it now, crazy. Back then, not that crazy. And so I'm in this rehab, and they're detoxing me. And after 7 days, they kick me into like the 28th day. And I was like 3 days in, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I made a mistake coming here. My mind was just screaming for a drink. I was so uncomfortable. Oh my God. It was like a 70 unit, 70 guys, sharing a room with like 3 guys. I was just like, so uncomfortable. And I went up to this, and I was like, I was 3 days in. Went up to the counselor, and I was like, I feel much better. Thank you for all your help. Pretty sure I'm not that bad. All this stuff. And she, I'll never forget this woman, Louise, God bless her. She looked right at me and she was like, have you ever finished anything in your whole life? And I couldn't, I couldn't answer that question with a yes at 31 years old. You ever finish anything ever? I was like stumped. And then she said, well, considering this whole life and death aspect, maybe you want to start here and now. And I was more spiteful towards her in the beginning, and I was like, well, I was like, all right, whatever, I'm tough, I could take it. I was so full of fear. Oh my God, I was so scared. Because it's just so unknown, sobriety. Sobriety is so unknown. I know how to live with the insects and the rodents and no electricity. How horrible that is. I understand that way. I know what's around the corner in that way. This was completely unknown. It scared me half to death. I had no idea what was coming around the corner in sobriety. That's why a lot of people, they go back and live in abandoned buildings in places like Patterson. Because they don't know how to pay a bill. A bill scares them to death. They'd rather go live in abandoned buildings. That's the fear of the alcoholism, how intense it is. And the only reason I stayed, the only reason I'm standing here today, is because every night at 7 o'clock, AA, NA, whatever A, came into that rehab, and you guys came in and threw down at that podium and knocked it out of the park. And for some reason, that time, in that part of my life, the ears were open, and you guys were talking, and I was hearing it. And it was simple. When you get out of here, go to a meeting, get a sponsor, read the big book, come early, stay late, make coffee, eat cheeseburgers with other alcoholics, right? Do service, set up chairs, be a greeter, shake hands. And I remember being in the rehab, being like, sponsor, writing it down, home group conscience, what's that? I was what is that? Because I was locked up in this safe place. It's all pie in the sky, oh yeah. And I remember I got out of the rehab and I didn't do any of that stuff. Nope. I'll go to meetings, that's it. Not getting a sponsor, I want to be your friend. Don't come talk to me. I'll sit in the back, I'll come late and I'll leave early, and I don't want to hear it. And I'll be here, right? That was my attitude, I had a bad attitude. I'm going to be here. I'll be here, but I don't want to hear it. Don't be, I don't need your help. I was like pissed off that I'd be here, but I was here. Pissed off. But I was here, and I thought that was enough. I accepted it. I had no clue what I suffered from. Zero clue about what ailed me at all. I had no idea it was a mental disease. I had no idea about any of that stuff. When we stop drinking, when we're drinking, our physical health is the last thing that leaves us, right? We die. Our physical being. It's the last thing that leaves us. But when we stop drinking, it's the first thing that comes back. I start feeling better, right? I'm working out, I'm running. I think that's sobriety. I feel better, right? Isn't that what we're talking about here? I feel better. Felt so good I went to the bar. A week out. I was going to meetings. And I sat down in that bar, I'll never forget. It was during the day. I loved drinking during the day. I was a big day drinker. And I went in and I sat down, I ordered that beer, and I looked at it and I stared at it, and it just was like, I was like, pressure, just like coming in. And eventually I took a drink, of course. It's just a matter of time. It's the obsession stage of the disease. It's got me by the, hooks in me now. I fought it off as much as I could with my willpower, and that was it. It was a wrap. I took a swig. Ooh, felt immediately better. Immediately. And about 5 seconds after that, I got slammed with guilt, shame, and remorse. Because I got a little bit of stuff going on here, I got the AA meetings. I got some rehab. I got, 35 days of sobriety, first time ever in 30 years. Right? I got a little bit something going on. No defense, zero defense against the disease, but I got a little bit of knowledge, self-knowledge. And so, 2 hours after that first drink, I was handcuffed to a hospital bed. This went crazy. Started a fight, cop, my cousin who was a cop, and him and my other cousin who was 6'5", 275 pounds. Started a fight with him too. And they picked me up horizontally, and they dragged me out of there. And he handcuffs me to a gurney and an ambulance, and off we went. And after that, it was like roller coaster ride, early sobriety. I make it a couple days and I drink. I make it like a week and then I drink. And I drink for like 4 days. Never stopped going to meetings though. Sometimes I'd go to a meeting drunk and two guys would see me and they'd hook me, one guy here, and drag me in, feet drag me into the meeting. Sit me down in the back, get me a cup of coffee. Fellowship does its job. But I got to reciprocate. And I wasn't. They were doing their job, but I was like, I still don't want your help. Sobbing in the back of the room. And I kept going to meetings, drunk, whatever, but I would go. I had nowhere else to go. Living back with my mom, every 31-year-old dream. And I'll give you a little story about the allergy. I told my mom, I was living with her, and she was letting me use her car. And I asked her, I said, can I use your car to go to a meeting? And she's like, you going to a meeting? A little suspicious, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going, for sure. How far away is it? All this stuff. Just beautiful liar, 3.5 miles, blah, 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 down the way. Had it all planned out. It's like 15 minutes to the meeting, 15 minutes after, smoking cigarettes, fellowshipping, right? All this stuff. I'm selling her this line, but I got it in my mind. It's like an hour and a half, hour 45. It's like 16 drinks maybe. Now that's my intention. I'll even lowball, right? 12. That's my intention. If you polygraph me in the moment, say, hey, how many beers are you going to drink when you go to the bar? 12 beers, no more, no less. And then I'll come home. Great meeting, Mom. This experiment's going to work so well. This will be my new plan. of how, like, I go about my day. Like, this is like the crazy mind, right? Except I go to the bar, take a drink, black out after the second drink. And then I wake up in my bed next day. That's the next thing I remember, waking up in my bed. I got that, like, impending sense of calamity, of doom, you know? Like you did something wrong, you just don't remember what it is, but you're absolutely sure you did something wrong, and you're about to hear about it, you know, from my mom. And I walk downstairs, you know, and I look at her, and she looks at me, and she says that she found me in her car, in her driveway, at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was passed out behind the wheel of her car, and the car was still running. And so, and you know what the one thing that was different about this situation was that it wasn't anger in her eyes. Like, that's what I was bracing for, the anger, you know, because I know all about the anger. It wasn't anger, it was fear. I scared her to death. And she was like, if I don't know where you are and I think that you might maybe somehow driving some kind of vehicle, I'll call every state policeman, county cop, anybody I know to go hunt you down. You know? And like, that's the thing, that's the allergy. Doesn't care about my intention. Care less. I say, I'm only going to have a couple of drinks. It's like, I don't think so. He's like, you take that first drink, I'm telling you right now, we will be drinking. And I'll let you know when I'm done. That's the allergy. It is 100% uncontrollable inside of us. No way to arrest it. One way, actually. Don't drink. That's it. I know nothing about this. And so finally, I do the hardest thing there is to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. I walk up to another man, and I ask him to be my sponsor. The reason why I share that that's the hardest thing to do in AA, and probably guys are like, have you never done an inventory? No. The reason why it's the hardest thing to do in AA is because after that, everything gets immediately easier. I very rarely will ever talk in absolutes, especially from the podium. But I'm going to tell you, this room, one thing that I'm absolutely 100% sure about. If you are trying to do this thing on your own, I'm sorry to say, it's not going to work out for you. It's just not. And the faster you come, if you're trying that, and the faster you come to that realization, the better off you'll be. And it might save your life. Because that's what I was trying to do. I don't need your help. I needed it bad. And we started the steps. And he was like, get a commitment, get a home group. These aren't negotiable. These aren't like suggestions, man. He was like, you better get that. You want to live. And and there was that humility again. Right? That first taste of humility was when I asked my mom to get me into a facility and didn't give conditions on like what facility. It was just like, I'll go, whatever it looks like, I'll go. This is the second point of humility in my life, where it was like I asked another man without attaching my conditions. I didn't say, hey man, will you be my sponsor? But like, I don't want to do that. Or like, I'm not setting up chairs, that's beneath me. Or I'm not making coffee, or I'm too busy, I got too much going on. He'd have been like, screw you, man. Good luck with that. I was like, what do I got to do? One of my teachers, this guy Luke H., I'm sure you've had him out here because he's amazing. Or if you haven't, I'll put you in touch with him because he's tremendous. And he said something I totally identify. It's like, I started to get better in AA when I stopped asking why and started asking how. You should do the steps. Well, why I got to do the steps? You should make coffee. You should set up chairs. Well, why do I got to do that? And I was staying sick with the why. And eventually I was like, how do I do that? I never made coffee until I got to AA. How do I make coffee? How do I make coffee for 150 people? No clue how to do that. I don't look stupid. How do I do that? How do you like the room set up? How should I stand out there? How should I greet you? How do I do an inventory? How do I make amends? How do I make amends cards? How do I sponsor people? How do I pray? How do I meditate? How do I do that stuff? Because I had no clue. And I stopped asking why, and I started asking how. And I was doing my inventory, and on Sunday I wanted to drink, and on Monday I didn't want to drink anymore. I can't explain that. On Sunday I wanted to drink, and on Monday I didn't want to drink anymore. Not that I didn't drink on Monday, I didn't want to drink on Monday. I didn't want it. Sometimes I hear people in meetings like, "It's a miracle I didn't drink today." Not really. We can do anything for 24 hours. Several times I barricaded myself in my room 24 hours. Didn't drink. Wasn't a miracle. I locked myself in a room. You know what the miracle is? I don't want to drink. That's all I ever wanted to do. And now I don't want to do that anymore. That's unbelievable. I can't even fathom to understand that. Other than the fact that I was doing all of that and all of this and everything you guys told me to do. And not only was I doing it, you told me if I did it, I'd get everything you told me I'd get. My sponsor was like, "I guarantee you get a spiritual awakening." I'm like, "Guarantee?" He's like, "Read the 12 step. What does the 12 steps say?" It says, "Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps." It does not say you might have one. Or if you have one. It says, "Having had one." Guarantees it. If I don't divert. Or if I don't run my own program. Or interject my ideas into an 80-year-old program that has helped millions of people. I have a better idea. I think we should, put 9 at 2 and no. Some crazy ideas in AA, man. My grand sponsor used to say, "It ain't well People's Anonymous." Sometimes you gotta be careful in here. You do. So, I'm going to tell you an amends story. To kind of wrap up the story. But just to let you know, what it's like today is I have a wife that I adore. She's 18 years sober. I met her in AA. She's the love of my life. We share this together. We walk different paths towards the same God. It's amazing. I have a house. It's impossible, but I have one. I have a 4-year-old and twins on the way. I'm happy, joyous, and free. And when I say free, I mean free. I go to concerts. I go out to dinner. I go to places where there's alcohol. I go to parties. I'm a free man. Right? That's what people told me that. That's what we offer here. Freedom. Sobriety is just like a byproduct. That just kind of comes along. But the real gift is freedom. It's a rocket ship ride. It's 4th dimension. Right? It's available to everybody who wants it. Right? But just like any freedom, not free. Right? If we look at all our promises, they all say, this is how we'll react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. There are conditions. Right? These will always materialize if we work for them. And just as fast as a gift and a promise can come through, it can absolutely go backwards if I stop or don't continue. I remember before I tell the last amends story, my sponsor said, my first sponsor would be like, "Look at the 12 steps, tell me the most powerful or most important word in all of that." And I would say, "Well, it's got to be we, right? I've heard we is really important because there's all of us." And he'd be like, "No, very important, not the most important word though." And I'd be like, God. Got to be God, right? God's the most important word in all the steps, right? If the whole thing's about God, got to be God. Nope, extremely important, not the most important. And I say, well, you got me stumped now, man. I don't know. What is it? What's the riddle? And he said, it's the first word in 10. Continued. That's the most important word in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because the truth of the matter is, the biggest enemy of alcoholics isn't alcohol. It's consistency. Family Feud. Number one answer. Why did I relapse? I stopped going to meetings. I stopped continuing. Number one answer. I stopped praying. I didn't continue to pray. I stopped meditating. I stopped. And although we and God are unbelievably important words, continued is the most important word in all of our program. Because it's the continuation of the actions that give us long-term sobriety. When we stop, it is an absolute death sentence. And so, when I was 18, I tried my hand at dealing drugs very unsuccessfully. And when I got arrested, the cops took my money and they took the drugs that I was using to make money. And so I had this drug dealer, and he wasn't about to let me slide on the $10,000 that I owed him, which I did not have anymore. You know, they don't care that you got arrested. They don't care about that. They want their money. And sometimes they'll do some really nice things to get it back. And so, like I was telling you, I have two older sisters. One is very wealthy. Texas oil money wealthy. Lives down in Dallas, now Austin. Anyway, I called her, and she's my half-sister. She's 20 years older than me. We've never really had a brother-sister thing, because I've always been in New Jersey, and she's always been in Texas or Louisiana or California. And I called her, and I told her what my problem, like that I owed this guy money, and that it was a dangerous situation. I didn't have it. And she said, well, what's this guy's address? And I told her, and she sent that guy a certified check for $10,000 next day. He just got it next day, certified. Like, I never heard from that guy ever again. And of course, as an alcoholic, I'm like, I'll pay you back a couple weeks. You know, it's nonsense. You know, years go by. And I was telling you, I was out here in Pennsylvania. I was hiding from some legal trouble out in Lewisburg, and I was in some real trouble, and money was a factor in helping me get out of that trouble. And so eventually, like I summoned up the courage to call her, and I gave her some bull, you know, like, oh, I can't find a job out here, or I can't do this, or like I'm getting screwed. Some line of nonsense, right? And she's like, well, what can I do to help you like get out of these problems? And I just was like, $5,000 will help. And I got a check next day, certified check. And you know what? That money really could have helped. Could have got me lawyers, could have paid all the fees, could have paid all the stuff. I had like DMV problems. I had a lot of issues. And I drank that money. 2 weeks later, it was gone. You know, not my intention. But I just, I got rolling with that money, and that was it, and it was gone. And so now fast forward, that was like 2000, I don't know. About 8 years later, I'm in AA. I'm about a year sober, a year and a half sober, and I got this 8-step list. Now, I've done a lot of my amends already. I was sponsoring guys within 7 months of my last drink, because I told you, like, once that obsession left and I caught the rocket ship ride, I was convinced, and I was in here, big time. And but I got amends, and I got this $10,000 amends owed to my sister. And you know how like the alcoholic mind can justify just about anything, and of course it's like, well, she's so rich. Wow, she's so rich, like she doesn't really need that money back. And the wheels are spinning. And God bless my sister. For all those years, I would go out there to California or Texas for Christmas, and she never brought up that money. Like never, like, hey, well, what are you buying? That's my money. Like, not that kind of person. Like, never once said, you ever think about paying me that money? Never, ever said a word about it. In fact, she gave me a $500 check every Christmas. I could have paid her back with her own money. But I cashed those checks. And I either put them up my nose or down my throat, or even in sobriety, I cashed those checks. And so I go into these 8-step, 9-step meetings, and of course I got this amends. It's hanging over me. And although I'm trying to justify it, I have developed a God conscience inside of me. And it's not going to let me just skate on this amends, even though I wanted to. So I go to my sponsor, and I say, I got this thing, and I need help. I don't know what to do. And he says, well, what can you do? What can you afford? Be reasonable about it. Don't, because you know how we are. Like, what I wanted? I always think about it. You know what I really wanted? I wanted to wait until I had the 10 G's in cash. And then just say, here's your money back, and like get the pat in the back. Wow. That's what I wanted. And the truth is, like, there's a very realistic chance I might never have $10,000 of expendable money just lying around. And so he's like, what can you do? And I'm like, well, I can do $100 a month. And he's like, all right. I'm like, that's 8 years. He's like, whatever. It is what it is. Send her a letter. So I did. Sent her a letter explaining what I did, explaining that I drank the money. I told her the truth. And in the letter, there was a check for $100. And I said, look, this is what I can afford. It's going to take 8 years, but is this satisfactory to you? And she said, I got a letter back. And she said, yes, this is satisfactory to me. Let's see what happens. I said, okay. So every month, I start sending checks. Now with the checks, I start sending kind of like little notes, like little letters. Nothing crazy, nothing big. This is what's going on in my life. This is how my mom's doing. This is how my cousins are doing. This is, again, like she's 20 years older than me. We've never really had this. So it's kind of like, hey, this is what's happening. This is what's going on in AA. I'm really liking this AA thing. I'm trying to quit smoking. I'm trying to run marathons. I'm thinking about doing triathlon. Like, information sharing, as we do. And I send them along each month, a little letter plus the checks. And so eventually I got to like $1,300. And it's so funny. We're so like against this kind of stuff. Eventually it just becomes like any other bill. Like, it's not even like a thing. I just send the checks, like another $100. It just becomes what it becomes when I'm so like, oh, that's my money. What am I, just to send it along. So now I'm getting married, and they're going to come to the wedding. And I get a letter back saying, no longer needed for you to send any more checks. And she didn't say anything other than that, but I instantly knew what I had done for the first time. If you would have asked me, what's the harm? I would have told you, well, I owe her money. The 10 grand is the harm. That wasn't the harm at all. The harm was that I treated her like she was some kind of ATM machine, and not my sister, and not a person. And I only reached out to her whenever I needed money and help. Never asked her about her family, about what was going on with her life. And as I made the amends with the letters, a relationship was formed and amended through information sharing. And once that was repaired, the money didn't mean anything to her anymore. It doesn't mean nothing to her. $10,000 to her is like $10 to me. Like, it's just that inconsistent. But the relationship was messed up. And so, you know, if I didn't send letters and I was just sending like envelopes with checks, I'd still be sending checks. For sure. Right? And though I no longer send checks, I still send letters. You know? And you are not going to find that anywhere else other than here. You are not going to find that. I mean, that amends blows me away. It hit me right between the eyes. And now today, though it's not as much the letters anymore, now it's frequent phone calls. A relationship was formed because of AA with a sister that I never really knew. Because of you guys. Because of that. And because of the relationship with God. And for that, and for you, and for everybody that's helped me along the way, I am eternally grateful. And I love you guys. Thanks for letting me share.
Let's have another round of applause. Thanks for that powerful message. Very beautiful. And thanks for telling my story. Food and fellowship starts at 8 o'clock. If you want to get involved with this home group, show up early. We could always use help. We'd love to have you. It's a great way to stay sober and help others. It's customary for us to form a line and thank our speaker. They come here at their own time and expense, so we'll be glad to do that. We'll put all the chairs away and leave the tables as is. And there's plenty of food over there, so don't hesitate to eat some of that. So thank you. We'll close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and glory